This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. We also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 25th of August 2021, and I am Miss K.
And I am JM. In case you missed the headlines this morning, here they are in the Daily Nation. Gloves are off. In the Standard, Uhuru, the problem with my deputy. In the Star, revealed how KPLC got into 120 billion shilling debt. And People Daily, on BBI, Kenyans lost. 2M, kick us off.
Absolutely. A few weeks ago, Deputy President William Ruto was asked by a local radio station why he traveled to Uganda. He told us that he was invited by an investor. He helped some time back open a vaccine factory. He actually went on air and told Kenyans that he phoned Equity Bank and asked them to loan the investor 15 billion shillings to build the vaccine factory in Uganda. Now, according to Ruto, the investor got the money, set up the factory, and as soon as it was finished, Ruto was invited to Uganda to inaugurate it thanks to Equity Bank. But today, before a committee of parliament, Equity Group CEO James Mwangi, through his MD, told Kenyans that there was no such phone call from William Ruto. He also said that 15 billion shillings was never disbursed to anybody in Uganda. He in fact said that Equity Bank Uganda cannot disburse more than 2.3 billion shillings in loans. This, in effect, is a contradiction by James Mwangi of Ruto's 15 billion shilling Equity Bank story. In fact, Equity Bank have just fallen short of calling Ruto a liar. The question herein is, if James Mwangi is right that there was no loan guaranteed or facilitated by Ruto, then the question is, did Ruto lie about the Uganda trip? And if he lied, why did he really travel to Uganda in the first place? But more importantly, if the largest bank in Eastern and Central Africa cannot vouch for a whole deputy president, what does that say? Here's my hunch. James Mwangi is saying that is right. He's saying the truth. And I say this because if Equity makes about or between 17 to 20 billion shillings in profit annually, why would it give nearly all its profits as a loan to some new, fresher investor in Uganda? It is total nonsense. William Ruto is peeling back his own mask. The real him is coming out, and we will not interrupt him. After all, Napoleon Bonaparte tells us not to interrupt our enemies when they are making mistakes. William Ruto, cheza kama wewe.
Absolutely. Now, I've also been inspired by the Daily Nation. Gloves are off, inspired also by the remarks of the Deputy President yesterday. So yesterday, Ruto insulted our intelligence by telling us that an expansion from the Ferrari presidency to the Pro-Box presidency was the equivalent of regressing back into the imperial presidency of yesteryears. He also told us that for 30 years, he was part of the fight for multi-party democracy.
The BBI was going to install the imperial presidency in a very unprecedented way.
I've only got one thing to say about this, right? To him, as you've said, Napoleon told us never interrupt your enemy when he is in the process of making a mistake.
Yes.
Yeah, so let me explain by way of a story about a fundamentalist Baptist church in Texas versus a local pub known as the Imperial Tap Room.
Love it.
So in the year 2016, the Imperial Tap Room had just launched a new experience for the residents of Texas. Yes. Craft beer, right?
Yes.
This whole culture of going in and making your own beer, different flavors, different methods of brewing and what have you.
Yeah.
Now this incensed the local church,
Yes.
who were vehemently against alcohol.
Yes.
In fact, according to this church, known as the Anchor and Hope Baptist Church, according to them, one of man's biggest enemies is alcohol. Now, they felt so strongly about this craft beer and this pub that they put up an ad in the newspaper titled, "Craft beer is the devil's craft."
Yes.
Here it is. Yeah. All right. Amongst the things it said were Lot in the Bible drank booze and committed incest. Ben-Hadad drank booze and lost a war. The Israelites drank booze and lost their kingdom. Nabal drank booze and died in a coma. Yeah, so seemingly persuasive. Yeah, but the Imperial Taproom Pub saw this as an ad opportunity. In one of their Monday morning meetings, they decided, let's flip this thing, right? That the church's ad could actually be used as a beer coupon in their pub. So they offered $1 off the bill for every customer who brought in a copy of this church's advertisement.
Love it.
And so they came out with their own, ad announcement, which is, up on your screen, and it said, "We are offering $1 off your bill at Imperial Taproom in exchange for the Devil's Craft coupon that was printed in the Canyon News on Sunday. We'll give you $1 off for each one of you, each one of you that you bring. So feel free to bring multiple of these ads. Come and enjoy some devilishly good craft beers with us. We'll see you all at the tap room. Cheers." That's what it read. So the tap room, as you can see, turned the church's campaign around 180 degrees.
Oh, absolutely.
Instead of being a campaign against craft beer, it now became a coupon campaign for craft beer.
Yes.
Advertising the Imperial Taproom.
I love it.
Right? And this is the way to do martial arts.
Yeah.
When you're responding to your adversary. That's what Uhuru Kenyatta is doing to William Ruto.
Yeah.
Let your enemy make mistakes and let your enemy drive himself to exhaustion. So rather than confront William Ruto openly and nakedly, Uhuru Kenyatta, like the Imperial Taproom, has decided to go with the flow, to use Ruto's own force to defeat him, but more importantly, to not interrupt him while he is making a mistake.
Yes.
Imperial Taproom coupon.
Yes.
I think we're all inspired by the Deputy President today, and I'd like to, and again, with a look at today's headlines, I had to admit I was a bit puzzled by the Deputy President. In the past, he said he would not complain if he's not assigned any duties by the President, and it's not good manners to discuss one's boss.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, he openly criticizes government, then refuses to step down when he's asked to quit the Jubilee government if he's dissatisfied with it. But the most confusing thing is his claim that he is single-handedly behind the achievements of the same government that he condemns. All this confusion made me wonder, what exactly does a Deputy President do?
Oh, what exactly is he high on?
I know, exactly. What exactly? Maybe the taproom craft beer. In America, the Vice President, the equivalent of our Deputy President, has one main role: to act as a tiebreaker in the Senate.
Yes.
So when the Senate has put a matter to the vote and there is a tie, the Vice President casts a vote to break the tie. This rarely happens. In fact, a Vice President can serve their entire term without breaking a Senate tie. The rest of the time, the Vice President has two main jobs: stay out of trouble to avoid impeachment, and wait around for the president in case the president needs a replacement. This means that most of the time, vice presidents have no real job to do.
Yes.
John Adams, the first US vice president, once complained to his wife that the vice presidency was the most insignificant office that ever the invention of man contrived or his imagination conceived. But what about our deputy president? According to our constitution, the DP has three functions. 1, to act as the principal assistant to the president. 2, the DP acts as the president when the president is absent, temporarily incapacitated, or during any other period the president decides, like when Uhuru went to the ICC and he told William Ruto, "You can be president while I'm away." Anyway, the third function is any other function that the president may assign you. Now, the DP could argue that his main problem is that he holds a different view from the president on some issues. And there's nothing wrong with this. Many US vice presidents have had points of view that differed from those of their president. Bill Clinton and Al Gore disagreed on the amount of power and influence given to Hillary Clinton. George W. Bush and Dick Cheney disagreed over Iraq, but these vice presidents still toed the administration line until the end of their term. They did not openly defy their superior. And as 2J said yesterday, there's a difference between dissent, which is having a different opinion, and open, outright disloyalty. So in any normal workplace, When a deputy is disloyal or refuses to follow the plain instructions of his superior, that deputy is found guilty of something called insubordination. Insubordination is simply defined as defiance of authority or refusal to obey simple orders, and insubordination is grounds for dismissal. But whether the DP quits or stays, development will still go on, because as we've said, Uhuru is a man in a hurry.
Kabisa.
That's right. So we got 4 headlines here. Gloves are off. Uhuru, the problem with my deputy, revealed. You revealed.
Yes, I think toss.
People Daily on BBI, Kenyans lost. Whom are we giving it to?
Good. I like that.
I like
that.
PD.
People Daily.
People Daily. Kenyans think BBI because it went down. They're the ones that they won, and Uhuru lost. Hey, Mutashanga.
Absolutely. The political elite will continue to sit pretty
Yeah.
as you continue to meza mate.
Namkikula Mawe.
Mechi. Yeah. Okay. So our winning headline goes to the People Daily. And now, on to our final thought. But before we get there, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. So what is our final thought?
And our final thought, it is inspired by a book entitled In God's Name by Yelop David.
The theme for Final Thought this week is assassination. Today we look into the death of Pope John Paul I on September 28, 1978, after he had served as Pope for only 33 days. Now, Pope John Paul I was 65 when he took office. That's pretty young for a pope. Our most recent popes, Pope Benedict and Pope Francis, were approaching 80 when they assumed office, so maybe there's hope for Raila yet. So the news that the young 65-year-old Pope John Paul I had died of a heart attack about 1 month after he became Pope seemed unbelievable to many. Also because he was such a happy, fun-loving and likable guy. So the rumors quickly began that he had been murdered. And the Vatican made decisions to guarantee we will never know for sure if Pope John Paul I was murdered. In fact, they seemed to go out of their way to fuel the suggestions of foul play. They offered conflicting accounts of his death. No one was sure who found the body, when exactly it was discovered, and to top it off, they decided not to perform a post-mortem and gave no official certificate of his death. Today's author suggests that Pope John Paul I was indeed murdered. He also suggests that a lethal dose of the heart drug digitalis did the job. And the motive for this crime? Pope John Paul I was murdered because he wanted to bring an end to financial misconduct in the Vatican, specifically the Vatican Bank, which was suspected of money laundering. The author names 5 alleged suspects who all stood to gain from the sudden death of the Pope. They are the American Archbishop Paul Marcinus, the Vatican Secretary of State, Cardinal Villot, the then head of the Vatican Bank, Michel Sindona, who is now in an American jail.
Really?
Yes, an Italian financier, Roberto Calvi, who was found dead hanging from a bridge in London.
My oh my.
Licio Gelli, the Grand Master of a notorious secret Italian Masonic lodge called, wait for it, Propaganda 2. In fact, investigations undertaken in the 80s into financial wrongdoing at the Vatican Bank led to the violent death of 6 other people, the highly suspicious suicides of 3 more, and the attempted murder of 1. This story was so sensational, it was the inspiration of some scenes in The Godfather. All in all, this assassination was definitely worth reading.
You know, it sounds a lot like the Clinton presidency.
It does.
You know, Clinton's presidency, let me tell you, it had very many mysterious deaths, which has never really been talked about in, very big, in a big way.
Someone needs
But
to write
very,
a book.
very many mysterious deaths.
Absolutely. I mean, even William Ruto's office and William Ruto's tenure as deputy president has had very mysterious deaths. In any case, Mrs. K, the Vatican can be accused of money laundering. Who is William Ruto and those funny evangelicals that are around him? Anyway, I believe John Paul I was taken out, and the reason I believe it is how the death of John Paul Albino Luciano, as he was known, was handled by senior Vatican officials. Sample this. When Pope John Paul I died in August 1978, a full 24 hours elapsed before his body was embalmed in accordance with Italian law. When Albino Luciani died in September 1978, Italian law was thrown out of the window, and the Vatican, let's make it up as we go along, law applied. The body of Albino Luciani was embalmed within 14 hours of his death. Why the haste, you may ask? Evidence suggests that Cardinal Villot and senior Vatican officials desired an even quicker embalming. Why? Evidence indicates the embalmers were summoned before the body was officially found. They were summoned at 4:45 a.m. The question herein is, if the body was found shortly after 5:30 a.m., why were the Vatican morticians, the Signorati, summoned 45 minutes earlier? What body were they going to collect and preserve? But then there's another thing. If there was one man in Italy who was in a position to confirm that Albino Luciani did in fact die of a heart attack, it would have been Professor Giovanni Rama, the eye specialist who had been treating Luciani since 1975 for a blood clot that he had in the left eye. He holds the view that this vascular complaint may have actually led to Luciani's death, but he freely admitted that as a medical opinion, it was worthless without an autopsy. If Cardinal Villot and senior Vatican colleagues really did believe that Luciani had died naturally of a heart attack, Professor Rama, with over 3 years' experience of treating Luciani, was a man to call the Vatican. However, he said that he had no contact whatsoever from the Vatican after Luciani's death, and he remarked, "I was very surprised that they did not ask me to come out and examine the Pope's body." Easily the most significant observation from a member of the medical profession was the comment attributed to Professor Mario Fontana. Now, Mario Fontana was the head of the Vatican Medical Service. He gave his opinion shortly after the Pope's death, but it did not become public knowledge until his own death in 1980. Here's what he said: "If I had to certify, under the same circumstances, the death of an ordinary, unimportant citizen, I would quite simply have refused to allow him to be buried." There you go.
Was a murder.
It was a murder. He was taken out.
And you know, it's a shame. There's really, I don't think anybody who was there to fight for him.
Yeah.
No wife, no children.
Absolutely.
At least none that were known.
Yeah, and he came from such a humble background.
Precisely, you know. So he only had his brothers.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, it's not very easy for them to advocate for somebody like this.
Yeah.
So the Catholic Church, I'm going to speak a little bit about motive, you know, suspected motive. The Catholic Church is the only religious organization in the world which has as its headquarters an independent state, the Vatican City, which is a law unto itself, right? It measures about 108 acres. It is smaller than many of the world's golf courses. It's the size of St. James's Park in London, and approximately 5 times the size of Nairobi's Central Park. Now, the modern wealth of the Vatican is based on the generosity of Benito Mussolini, but also it's you know, largely based on a man by the name Bernardino Nogara. So 4 years after Mussolini came to power, the Italian government signed the Lateran Treaty, and through this treaty, the Holy See obtained recognition of itself as a sovereign state separate from Italy. It was exempted from paying taxes both for its properties and its citizens, exempted from paying duty on imported goods and all other state, you know, sovereign trappings.
Right.
But here is the best part. Upon ratification of the treaty, Italy committed itself to paying the Holy See, the Vatican state, and you know, by extension the Catholic Church, the sum of 750 million lire.
Yes.
At the 1929 rate of exchange, this package represented $81 million.
Whoa.
A 2021 equivalent figure is $1.2 billion.
Yeah.
So Mussolini in 1929 gives $1.2 billion to the Vatican state. So Mussolini endows them with, you know, handsomely with all this money. But it's not enough to get a windfall of money. One must be able to multiply that money, as was taught to us in the parable of the talents. So the then Pope, Pope Pius XI, created a new office in the Vatican, called it the Special Administration. And he appointed a brilliant engineer gifted in the area of multiplying money. And this is the guy I'm talking about, Bernardino Nogara. Now, fortunately for this new CEO, 100 years earlier, in the 1800s, the Roman Catholic Church had completely reversed its position on money lending. Right? Usury. Usury nowadays means lending money at exorbitant rates of interest. So at least that had been scrapped, and he could at least lend money. Right? But Bernardino had two more conditions before taking up the job. Number one, he told the Pope, any investments he chose to make should be totally and completely free of any religious or doctrinal considerations. Yeah? So if a Catholic says, all those 7 deadly sins that we talk about,
Yes.
Bernardino said, I want to invest in the 7 deadly sins.
Yes. Nothing is off limits.
And nothing is off limits, and don't stop me. Condition number 2, he said he would be free to, he wanted to be free to invest these funds anywhere in the world.
Right.
So not just Europe, but Africa,
Yes.
Asia, everywhere.
Yeah.
So drug trade.
Saudi
doesn't
Arabia.
matter.
Yeah, it
Oil money.
doesn't matter. With Jews, with Muslims, we will do business.
Yes.
And the Pope said, okay, you know what, that's fine, that's a fair deal. So the Pope agreed and opened the doors, therefore, the floodgates to all sorts of investments.
Love
so
it.
Bernardino did currency speculation. Amongst the investments, he invested a great deal in the stock exchange, including the buying of shares in companies whose products were inconsistent with Roman Catholic teaching. Items such as bombs, right, tanks, guns, contraceptives, all these things that are condemned in the pulpit every Sunday at St. Peter's. Yeah, and what have you. He invested in all those things. But the shares Nogara bought for the Vatican in companies which manufactured these items, yes, it was against the doctrine of the Catholic Church, but they all went into really filling up the coffers in St. Peter's. And I want to believe the reason why this Pope was therefore assassinated is because he wanted to undo all these things that this guy and that Pope had been doing.
Absolutely.
And there were so many interests at play, they had to take him out. Poor guy.
Absolutely.
Didn't realize what he was walking into. A trap.
Yeah, what a story. Great book. So today we had a winning headline from the People Daily. And I want to leave you with a quote once again by Napoleon Bonaparte in the context of what the errors that we've been seeing William Ruto doing. Napoleon says, put a rogue in the limelight and he will act like an honest man.
Because the spotlight is on him.
Have a good evening. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and find us on GoTV Pan Star Times. Have a good evening.